Hello, everybody. I just want to start off by saying I am thoroughly enjoying this class. I came into this class kind of thinking that I would pick, learn a whole bunch of theories, but pick maybe like one or two, maybe three different ones that I would use for my counseling practice whenever I start practicing. But the more I'm reading, the more I'm finding that each one of these theories, I have something that I like about each one of them. So I'm really just grateful to have these tools in our arsenal so that when we do start counseling professionally, we have a whole bunch of different tools and resources that we can use to counsel our clients. The first question we had to answer was, what techniques do you think are most important in building a relationship with Marcus while helping him to understand the basic tenets of reality therapy? The first technique I think would be explaining to him and actively implementing tonics of relationships. The particular ones that I would use more often than the other ones that were listed was sharing of self and adapting to own personality, using affirming language, inviting solutions, and listening for change talk and inner control. That list is listed on page 415. I'm sorry, 417 in our book, Counseling Theories and Practice. I would particularly use these because that's really how I am. I'm one to share. I'm a very open person, so I'll be one to share my experiences and share, how I would relate to this or how I can see how he feels this way. I'm also the kind of person which lines up perfectly with reality therapy. Like, say Marcus likes tennis, I also like tennis, so that'd be another connecting point, and it'd be another way that we can build an authentic relationship. I would also address the toxics of relationships with him, because on page 417 it says a number of behaviors can go far in destroying a therapeutic relationship in general. Avoid arguing, blaming, condemning, demanding, encouraging excuses, instilling fear, giving up easily, and holding grudges. I would definitely use those to create a neutral playing field, so that Marcus feels as comfortable as he possibly can with me in my office while he's talking with me, while we're discussing and I'm counseling him. The second question is, if you were going to continue to be Marcus's reality therapist, how would you use the WDEP system to support him in exploring and creating a plan to strengthen his relationships? The first thing I would do clearly is to discover what he's wanting from his relationships. I would want to know, firstly, what are they like right now? Where are you trying to go? In a quality world, what would be the place that you would want relationships to be in, both on a one-on-one basis as well as collectively? Because I remember he talked about his relationship with Rob, which would be a one-on-one, and then his relationship with his family, which might be a collective. Or if he's having particular issues with one particular person in the family, how would he want that to look? What would he want to accomplish? I would then move on to the direction and the movement. I would particularly be asking, what are you doing right now? And how are you tracking it? Are you tracking it? Do you think you need to? What are daily steps that you are taking to build these relationships and create better relationships? The third thing I would do is I would strongly encourage self-evaluation. How are these things that you're doing working for you? If you're not doing anything at all, what would you like to implement? I would ask him, what are things that you would like to do more of, do less of, or what things that you like to change? How are you feeling about this particular situation? I would definitely ask him questions like this. How are you feeling about the changes? How are they making you feel inside as you go through the changes, as you come on the other side of the changes? All those types of things, I would be asking them questions about that. The fourth thing is to create and devise a plan. One thing I truly like about this theory is that you get to work with the counselor, you devise a plan with the client. It's not like I'm just telling him, hey, you go do this and we're gonna see how it goes. Or it's not all the clients. So I like the fact that we get to collaborate and it's like a joint effort. But as far as creating the plan, the good thing about Marcus is that Marcus is very forthcoming and very open. So even though he had already been through therapy, I know it can still be kind of off-putting when you have to go to a completely different therapist. So it was nice to see that even though he was a completely different therapist, and B, he came in, he wasn't even knowing he was coming in, I was very impressed that he was still so open about the fact that he's like, well, this is going on, Rob, and this is going on with how I feel about my comps and me getting my PhD, and all these types of things. I would encourage SMART goals, and I would also encourage him I would encourage him to identify his outcomes. What are you expecting from doing this particular thing? What are you expecting to learn? What are you expecting to gain? What are you expecting to accomplish? And the good thing I love about SMART goals is the fact that they are accountable. So I can hold him accountable. He can hold himself accountable. He can have someone in the family hold him accountable. They're timely, they're measurable, they're specific. And so those are things that are always great when you're looking to accomplish goals and you're setting out a plan. I would also remind him that if he gets into this and he's like, look, I think I want to change this, that is completely okay. And I want to completely encourage him to change that. That's actually listed on page 422, that if they do want to change, that it's completely okay and that you should encourage it, actually. Third question is, what multicultural issues does Marcus's counselor need to attend to? On page 423, the first thing that I noticed when I was reading the case was that Marcus has a boyfriend. So I found it very interesting that he didn't mention that. He didn't mention anything in regards to how his family reacted to it or how his sister reacted to it. Now, granted, Angela went and picked him up from his house to go to this meeting, but at the same time, when Angela dropped him off, there was nothing noted in the text that had anything to do with any type of tension between Angela and Marcus. But he didn't mention anything about his family, so I would question if there's any tension about the fact that he is gay between his family. I would want to know. And if he says, that it's totally fine, they're completely accepting of me, then I will move on and address the other issues. But I do want to address that and bring it up. So that was one huge multicultural thing that I was just like, I have to address this. I have to bring it up. The fourth question is, if you were applying rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT, with Marcus instead of reality therapy, what would be two major differences in the delivery of counseling? The first difference that I noticed is that teaching the REBT philosophy was a part of the technique. It was a part of the process. In reality therapy, clearly you want to do that so the client knows exactly what they're getting into, but it's a part of the actual process in this particular therapy. And it's almost like the therapist is trying to convince the client that this is the thing that they need to do to fix whatever irrational thoughts or emotions they might be having, or dysfunctional emotions or thoughts that they might be having. So on page 337, it says therapists need to actively encourage clients to take on this philosophy if they are able to make any substantive changes. REBT philosophy, books, pamphlets, internet resources, and other aids that clients can look at in the office or study at home might be suggested. In the case with Marcus, the counselor did suggest and recommend certain books and things for him to read, but that's one huge thing that I noticed in between the difference, because in the reality therapy, it wasn't something that was necessarily like needed, but with the rational emotive behavior therapy, it was something that was needed. You need the client to understand what's happening and why we're doing it this certain way, and what the philosophy behind this particular theory is. The second thing that kind of just jarred me was mentioned on page 338, which is particularly addressing the directing the change process. On 338, it says, it is the job of the REBT therapist to listen and actively assess the client's situation, understand the client's upsetness, and come up with a hypothesis as to how the client is cognitively distorting events and causing himself or herself to feel distressed. The therapist actively suggests ways in which the client can rid himself or herself of irrational and dysfunctional thoughts, behaviors, and feelings, and adopt new, more rational and functional ones. This one kind of threw me because I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know if I want to tell somebody that this is their issue. The one thing that I noticed between the reality and the rational emotive behavior therapy is the fact that in the reality therapy, we allow the client to come and tell us, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, and let's get it done. Here with the emotive behavior therapy, we're listening to them tell their story, and then we're making a hypothesis based on what we think the issue is and what we think we should do about it to make sure that you move forward, and this is how you address your life from this day forward. I like the reality therapy more.